People who work in hotels, what was the strangest thing you found in someone's room? I'm a flight attendant. I have slept in countless beds. I always spray my bag for bed bugs and I constantly feel itchy from dust mites and have to spray. One friend of mine puts a plastic sheet down on the bed. What people don't realize is there is a gallon worth of liquid sweat from all the previous people probably soaked into that mattress. I think Mythbusters did a mattress sweat myth too. Here's one from me as well. I was night shift this one time covering a colleague of mine. It's the winter and like -30°C outside. I walk around since I'm bored and nothing is happening and go outside of the hotel for a bit. I see a man and a woman in their 20s on the balcony in shirts and they tell me that they can't get back in since they locked themselves on the balcony and that they've been stuck there for like 30 minutes. I go to their room and try to open the door, but it's locked. Try using the master key but it doesn't work as well since they got the latch on. So I call the fire department since I wasn't quite sure what to do. Two fire guys casually just come and go near the door and one of the guys just kicks the door with all his strength and the latch breaks. IDK, I kinda expected a more civilized way of opening the door but I guess that works. I enter and I see that there's one more person lying on the bed that's just completely wasted. At first I thought he was dead but now he was just wasted AF. Anyway, I open the balcony door and let them back in and they start throwing a fit how it's unacceptable that this happened but couldn't be bothered to argue now. I said whatever and went back down. They came back early morning and said they wanted the manager and that they had a complaint. Told them that I'm the supervisor and that they will have to deal with me and they start arguing that all of this is our fault and that they wanted compensation. Anyway, that obviously doesn't slide and I just tell them that they're lucky that I'm not charging them about the damage that was done and the fact that the room was overall trashed as well since apparently they were having a drinking party there and trashing the whole room. Anyway, they leave and say that they will leave a bad review and whatnot. I'm still amazed to this day how they were seriously trying to throw a fit and try to get something from it for something that was clearly their fault. I worked in a hotel casino as overnight mod. I had to issue a noise complaint one night and after about 5 minutes of standing outside the room knocking and the guest not coming to the door, myself and security let ourselves in. This dude had like 6 girls in the room with him and the bed was covered in Visqueen and the Visqueen was covered in butter and on top of the butter was thousands and thousands of dollars. Dude was having these women cover each other in butter and then roll around in the money. Whatever attached to them they kept. I was at an inn, not sure what makes a place a hotel, inn, or motel. Once and this chick we were with somehow bumped the ceiling tile above the desk area. It starts raining drug paraphernalia, used pipes of different kinds, crack pipes, pizzles, a real assortment, also needles and some actual drugs. How lucky. We told the staff and they laughed it off. No offer to change rooms or discount our stay at all, which we really didn't ask for honestly, but looking back that seems weird. We were all in high school at the time so we laughed it off too, but yay. Use needles raining from the ceiling warranted a bad Yelp review at least. So you know how when you get married people traditionally will throw rice at you as you're leaving the church? Well, instead of rice people will go to a novelty store and buy confetti. I found little confetti flakes that were shaped as little penises. The funny thing about that, what makes it more funnier, is that stuff was hard to vacuum up because it would somehow find itself scattered at other parts of the hotel. I would be on the other end of the hotel in a closet and would find the same confetti shapes because they were so small that the debris of them would always be blown scattered in random places. Months later I would still find pieces of them lying on the floor and other random parts of the hotel. You just can't get rid of them. I guess an 8-ball, but that wasn't the thing. In the Rockies we had a week of skiing and other activities for disabled vets. Man lost both his arms in combat and asked me to break up his coke and put it into lines for him. Had a bit of experience from a nasty little Adderall habit in college. Obliged and watched him literally slam his face into the table and take a rail. Popped up, woohooed and asked if I wanted some. I politely declined and headed for the door. When I was in my early 20s, I went to visit a friend at his studio apartment. I had known him for about 2 years, but had never been to his place. When I walked in, I'm not even sure I was able to hide the look of shock on my face. His place was filled, and I mean filled with porno magazines. There were thousands of them stacked everywhere. Every wall was filled with posters and pictures of naked women that he had torn out of the magazines. There were so many magazines piled, it was hard to walk through the room and find a place to sit. It was one of the most uncomfortable moments in my early life. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I knew him for about 4 years. We moved in a mutual group of friends. In that time, he never had a girlfriend or even a date that I ever saw. He clearly had a serious problem in my mind. I worked at a luxury hotel chain in a university town in the Midwest for 1 semester as a housekeeper. One time I go into a vacated room to start my cleaning routine. Stand at the foot of the bed as usual, throw off the comforter, grab the sheets by their hospital corners and tug hard towards me, and I get hit in the chest by a flying condom. The condom was not empty. Not in the room, but someone jumped off the 5th floor into the atrium of a hotel I was working at, right as we were about to leave for the night, and we hear a crash. I tell my co-worker that it was probably just one of the banquet people dropping a table in the atrium. 15 seconds later we have someone running up to the front desk screaming that someone jumped from one of the upper floors. I found out later that it was a student that was staying at the hotel while taking some exam that day. This lucky guy actually couldn't have landed any more perfect into a flower bed in the atrium, barely big enough to fit his body in fetal position. Both his legs and hips were definitely broken, but he survived without sustaining life-threatening injuries. If he landed even a foot further in any direction, he wouldn't have landed right on the travertine flooring. So way back during the 2002 Olympics, I worked for a vacation condo rental company. The FBI was renting a unit and we had a changeover schedule to give them fresh sheets and towels. Not only did we find a few pistols in some of the closets, but a stockpile of several AK-47s in the laundry room. We opened the door, saw the guns and shut it quickly and got out. It was wild but rather uneventful. Front desk agent. We had a report of a plugged toilet in a high-floor suite bathroom and had to get the snake out to retrieve whatever it was. It was my first time working an afternoon shift, and for reference, I've used a regular toilet plunger maybe 3 times in my life, so of course using a toilet snake was uncharted territory. Well, the senior agent just smirked at me and sent me up. After a few good minutes of trying to get this mystery thing out, I conceded and called up the other agent. He cranked it as hard as he could and finally pulled out a wad of aluminum foil about the size of an apple. Attached to it was a Ziploc bag with a strange substance we guessed might have been black tar heroin. We won't ever be sure, but I've never pulled anything else like that lately. Pretty alright apart hotel I was working at. Apartment had been occupied by some Norwegian dudes who were there to party hard, and when checking out they were still a tad high but in good spirits. Place was left in pretty okay condition considering. The strange thing was 2 giant cartons of eggs left behind. Had been maybe 48 eggs in total with maybe 10 left. Only shells of a few eggs in the bin. No sign of what had been done with the rest of the eggs. No sign of egging in the street or anything like that, plus they weren't the type to do that. Just odd. Funniest one was when I knocked a magic bullet from under a sofa with the vacuum and it began to vibrate around the floor. Worked at a high-end boutique hotel off of Columbus Circle, Manhattan. This place was no for debauchery. Famous people would frequent nightly. One of the Hiltons had a permanent residence there. I was a rooms manager and the housekeepers refused to clean a room. I went to check it out and lo and behold, the occupants hung up plastic sheets to cover the walls and they had a poop party. There was shit and froth sprayed all over. They left a giant unclean dildo. It was quite the sight. No one dead though. That was when I was working in Hawaii. Wink wink. Went to Atlantic City with a few friends on a random Tuesday night like 10 plus years ago. There wasn't a whole lot going on, but a friend got trashed pretty early and made a scene with a couple of hookers. One really pretty, one really heavy. The friend walks away with a heavy one and yells back at us that he's done for the night with a sloppy wink. The rest of the group got back to the room minute hours later to find the door jammed with a chair, the bathroom flooded, an unused condom on the dresser, and our friend passed out spread eagle on one of the beds. The next morning we asked the friend, who was in pretty terrible shape, what happened, and he claimed he blacked that entire part of the night out and didn't know.